morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. Oh, announcement. Flash. The Nielsen ratings are in. I'm happy to announce that Broadwell and Beeston were very strong over there. Burtonview, not quite so much. So you folks at Burtonview are going to have to answer your Nielsen questionnaire so that we come up in better shape. We want to be more than 2 out there in Burtonview. In any event, kudos. You know, we all sit there and watch and shake our heads at these uprisings and so forth all over the country. Country's gone nuts. Our men in blue, we ought to be so lucky to be here in Lincoln-Logan County to have a chief of police that we do, Paul Adams, and the sheriff that we do, and Mr. Landers. Those 2 gentlemen run good ships, and we're just lucky to be here in this little rural area so that we don't face those people at your old home state of Minneapolis. They've gone nuts. I think the whole state's gone nutty up there, Judith. Good thing you left. But in any event, on a serious note, we're lucky. We're really lucky to be here, not to face that strife that the officers in these big municipal cities face every day they put their uniform on. So kudos to the men in blue and the ladies also. Let's get serious, and we have some very nice guests. They drove all the way up here. I had a hard time getting them past Lawndale Tap, but they're here. But they're here. So bring them on, Mrs. Busby, if you will, please.
You know, I don't know where we got Willie Bill, Jim, but you done good. Oofta. Our guests today are representing the Holy Family Logan County Catholic organization, who saw it, the writing on the wall, because it's gotten worse since you opened. The food banks are busy, and Carolyn, I know in the past, just when I've seen you socially and we've talked about this, your numbers have been astonishing in Logan County.
That's remarkable.
The numbers of people that you've served, and I'm sure that hasn't diminished. And the price of groceries is not going down, as is the price of nothing else. So it's going to probably get busier for you. How did Holy Family and the Catholic churches of the county decide that it was time that they jump into this? Bless their hearts.
Amen for that.
Well, actually, the Holy Family Food Pantry started with St. Patrick's, and that goes way back. It started in 1980 with just one parishioner who came in and bagged whatever groceries had been donated, and it was right there at the rectory. And people would come to the rectory for help, and they would get whatever groceries they had. And over the years, it's just grown and grown and grown. And probably about 1995, they had set up a regular day that they would be open, and that's on Wednesdays from 10 to 2. And 3 years ago, we got our own building. We're on the corner of Clinton and Logan Streets. And last year, you're right, Judy, we really got busy once COVID hit. And we served almost 2,500 families last year and gave out over 9,000 bags of groceries. So it was a big year for us. Just lately here, it's been a little slower, and we don't know why. We think that it's probably because of the stimulus checks that went out. And maybe folks got a refund from their income tax. Whatever, we're happy they've got a few coins in their pocket, and we will be there when they need us. We're still open. We're serving an average of 25 to 30 families a week right now.
That's remarkable. It really is, truly. And you think it's difficult for somebody to go say, I need help.
Yes, it is.
That's a demeaning process. And so you have to take your hat off to you workers, you volunteers. Gordon couldn't do it without your volunteers. But for somebody to come in and say, who's been proud and has worked, and suddenly their circumstances are different. So there's there's another little factor that I don't know. I didn't study psychology when I was in school, but there's a psychological factor for somebody to give up and say, I need help.
Sure it is. And we don't ask for any financial information.
That's interesting.
We don't ask anything except that you live in Logan County. And we have a drive-through facility where people drive around the building, and at the first door they stop and give their name and their address, and then the next door while they give out their groceries, so they never leave their car. And we put the groceries in the car for them. It's worked out very, very well. It wasn't too much fun in the dead of winter.
No,
but
no. How many volunteers do you have, Mrs.?
We have over 50, and it
bless her.
takes every one of them. So it's on top of just giving out the groceries. Of course, the other end of it is
Organizing.
bringing in the groceries.
Yes.
And getting them all organized.
It takes, we have 6 people that work what we call the morning shift, which is from 10 till 2, and then another shift comes in, and we don't have as many come in the afternoon as we do in the morning. And Shirley Winterbauer, who's with me, she goes to the big food banks in Bloomington and in Normal 3 times a month, and she brings back whatever she thinks that they're offering that our people would like, and those are the extras that we give out in addition to the bags of
Do
groceries.
those banks, Mrs. Winterbauer, do they get food from the government, to commodity program and so forth? Where do they get their supplies?
Some of it comes from surrounding grocery stores that's close to being out of date. When we go to Bloomington Normal, the one time I went up there, they do a lot of produce, fresh
Which is
produce,
Yeah.
which I noticed our people really like. And I come back one day with the back of my car full, and I told Carolyn, I said, I don't know, because we come back with like asparagus and onions and potatoes and
Really?
and you name it, and mushrooms and kiwi but I like to look at it because I want to make sure that it's good and
Fresh.
everything.
Yeah.
And the people just love it. And so I go up there twice a month, and then once a month or sometimes twice a month I go to Morton, and we bring back a lot of dry goods and stuff. But you got to have the facility, like the trailers and the trucks or the cars, depending on what you're going to get. And Carolyn has emphasized to me that fresh produce goes really good.
Oh, sure.
So
Now,
right
you
now
got a lot
it's
of
kinda
troops working.
hard.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Mrs. Winterbauer. Go ahead. I stumped right in there, as I do often, so you stare at me hard and I'll know better
Well,
not
and
to.
the thing with Bloomington is you have to wait for them to put a message out, and then you try to hurry and get a time. You have to reserve a time. You can't just go up there. You have to reserve a time, so...
No dropping in, huh?
No. So I watch that very close so I can try to get like the first time so that we're not spending the whole day up there. But there's times that by the time you unload everything and we rebag or we sort things out and everything, it takes several hours.
Oh, yes.
Well, we've got some troops involved here. Mrs. Webster, who's in charge of the troops? Who does all the organizing? That takes a lot of doing, seriously.
Well, we've been very fortunate. We just put it in the bulletin and in our church website that we're looking for volunteers, and people call us. So we haven't really had to do a lot of recruiting, so to speak.
You have good support from your church.
Wonderful support. Our parishioners, and when I say our parishioners, I'm we say Holy Family all the time so that people know where we're located. We're located with Holy Family Church. But we're also supported by St. Mary's in Atlanta, St. Thomas Aquinas in Mount Pulaski, and St. Patrick's in Elkhart. And they feed in. Our parishioners, we have spots at each of the churches that they can bring groceries in on the weekends and leave it at the church. Or we also have, as Shirley says, where she goes, but we buy an awful lot of our groceries, and we buy them locally. We buy the meat locally, and we buy all of the canned goods, the non-perishable things.
Now, where do you get the funds to buy the meat and things? That's not a cheap proposition.
No, it's not.
Those
Each
come
bag
from,
costs.
Those come from the confessional booth. Father Gladway would say, instead of Hail Marys, you could do it $10.
Well, that's
seriously.
partially true too. But our people have been very, very generous. But we've also had some great support from different community organizations. We had a grant last year from Integrity Data, and we've had donations from Eaton, the Elks, the KFCs, lots of different organizations, as well as just everyday folks out in the community send us a check every once in a while. Each one of those bags that we give out costs us about $9.65. So it's not a cheap mission, you know.
No.
Now, what do you do about allotting the bags to the people? You know, some of us have 3 kids, and some of us have 6 kids, and some of us have 9 kids.
Yeah.
How do you figure?
We give out 1 bag for if you have 1 or 2 people in the house, 2 bags if there's 3 or 4, and 3 bags if there's over 4. Now that sounds generous, but that's once a month, and we'd be the first ones to admit that, you know, it certainly isn't going to take care of people for the whole month.
No.
But our objective is to try and help. So,
Well, but you mustn't minimize that,
No.
because if everybody tried to help with everything, we'd have more going on than we'd know what to do with.
that's right. That's right. We have some folks who have as many as 9 people in their house. you
Oh,
know.
sure.
Yeah. And the other thing, we've all just started to keep track of the number of adults in the house, and that's been a real surprise to me, a real awakening. Most of the people in the house are adults, believe it or not. So it's kind of it's been an awakening all the way around, you know, just to see. But we're grateful that people support us the way they do, both financially and bringing in groceries. Last year, on top of what we had in the fund, we went $13,000 over what we'd been spending. So we had an appeal at the end of the year, right around Christmas time, and oh boy, people were just so generous. It was
that
great.
marvelous?
We recovered that $13,000 and got a little cushion, so that was nice.
Wonderful, wonderful. Sometimes we get kind of jaundiced, don't we? And we think people are just no darn bit of good.
That's right.
But you don't have to look too far before you find people that really care
That's
about one another.
That's right.
It's tough times. How are your numbers going? Do they seem to fluctuate greatly, or?
Well, last year, I'd say once COVID really hit, like in May,
Yeah.
We were really,
we were swamped. We gave out.
Interesting. I'm a little confused by that, and I don't know why I should be. I'm about half smart, but only half. Why an illness would create a demand? Now, we understand the economics of this because people got laid off and so forth, but suddenly we have this illness and we have an uptick in need at our food pantries. That's interesting. I don't know the psychology behind that.
Well, I think it was mostly that people were laid off from work, you know, and people got sick, you know, with the COVID. And we had one lady that was telling me about how they had to move into their daughter's dining room because
Really?
they lost their house because they couldn't afford to make the payments.
Boy, that's an
So
impact.
there's some really sad stories out there.
eye-openers out there, aren't there?
And as I said, we don't ask any of that information. If you say you need help,
But in just going through the line, I'm sure that you get to know some of those people, and just in chatting back and forth, you
We
learn
do.
these things that about knock your socks off, huh?
well, and some you can tell are very, very appreciative. And when Carolyn was talking about it costs $9 a bag, or $10, let's just say a bag, and it's going to get more expensive and stuff.
Yeah.
That doesn't include what Carolyn classifies as extras, because those extras are what I bring back, you know, from Bloomington or whatever. So on top of that bag of food that she's giving them, we ask them, do you want, asparagus? Do you want this? Do you want this? And bread and eggs and stuff. And those are all extras on top of that bag of food that they get. So they get more than just a bag. They get all these little extras. And some of them are cleaning supplies. Some of them are...
Pork rinds.
Yeah.
Some of them are what?
Pork rinds.
Yes.
This week, yeah.
And there's chips and there's candy but come summer we try to bring back more fruit and stuff. So that's added in on top of.
Well, that must make a difference to you. Now, the growing season is beginning, and people's gardens, I'm sure that some of their produce will go to you.
Yes.
Excuse me. Go ahead, Mrs.
No, locally people will bring their produce in too. It's a very short season, for...
It's going to be a very short season for Judy and Bill if we don't recognize our sponsors.
Oh.
Go right ahead, sir. Right back live this morning. The program is Viewpoint. Our guests this morning, Mrs. Carolyn Webster and Mrs. Shirley Winterbauer, volunteers extraordinaire at the Holy Family Food Pantry. Another organization here in Lincoln, Logan County does a whale of a job filling a real need for people who are obviously in need. I was just commenting off air with the Holy Family Food Pantry, and we go right down on Logan Street between Pekin and Broadway, and there's the other Logan County Food Pantry, and I'm not sure the exact name of it, but I mention that because when you drive by, you see a number of cars there. So, folks, there's an ongoing need in Lincoln, Logan County for the food pantries, and God love them. A lot of people would really be sore pressed without those facilities to go to. And Holy Family, they're not only represented here in Lincoln, but we have Elkhart, and we have Mount Pulaski, and up here in Atlanta. St. Mary's up here, isn't it? In any event, those folks all chip in to help their church, Holy Family, do a whale of a lot of good in Lincoln, Logan County. Mrs. Busby, I will turn the questioning over to you because that's your expertise.
Cheap help.
She's popping out.
Tell her about dead mics, Jim.
Now, Carolyn, you've been affiliated with this, starting with doing the computer work and then moving into the hands-on.
Right.
For how many years?
Well, I started with the computer end of it probably 5 or 6 years ago, and then in just about a year and a half, the lady who had literally run every facet of the Pat Burger, she got ill, and she's been a friend of mine for a long time, and so I kind of just stepped in while she was recovering, but unfortunately her recovery turned into more serious things. So at any rate, probably about a year and a half that I've really been running it. So you might be interested in what we put in the bags.
Yes, I would, please, and thank you.
Each bag has a can of fruit, a can of soup, 2 cans of vegetables, a box of macaroni and cheese, what we call the free shelf. And as my sister, who was out helping me up there one day, she said, "That's the odds and ends, right?" And I said, "Yes, that's exactly what it is." So some of those go in there, and then either cereal or crackers, 2 rolls of toilet paper, and what we call a main meal, which is either spaghetti and sauce, or chicken noodles and broth, or pancakes and syrup. Can't think. Oh, ham, canned ham, and
that'll just vary then from week to week.
Pretty basic stuff, but very needed stuff.
Yes, and then we have what we call the treats, which are the cookies and the candies and so forth. So, and each bag has meat, and they have a choice of the meat. This week we're offering hamburger or pork chops or breaded chicken fillet, ravioli, beef ravioli and marinara sauce, bacon, and then we also have a whole hog sausage that came locally to us.
And then is your bag and your grocery supply predicated on the number of people in your family? Like my husband was one of 9 kids.
Yep.
So I was one of 3. They obviously would have needed more sacks
That's right.
than my mom did.
Yep. Buzzy would have gotten 3 sacks. You would have gotten 2.
Uh-huh.
So, but everything in the sack is non-perishable except the meat. And the meat, of course, we hand that out as we go.
Would it be appropriate, Mrs. Webster, to ask people to think in terms of Holy Family in their donations, not only their cash donations, but non-perishable items? Those are always needed. Something
Yes,
that you could put on a
very-
shelf to pull off 2 weeks from now.
Very much so. And they can drop it off any Wednesday from 10 to 2. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but we're very picky. We try our darndest not to give anything that's out of date. So
Well,
That's not being picky, that's just being sensible.
yeah, well, when you clean out your cupboard and you think, well, I'll just take that to the food pantry, I'm not using it, please check the date before you do, because either you throw it away or we throw it away.
Point well made.
yeah.
We try
But
not
you
to
wouldn't dare give anything out
No.
that is out of date. You could be responsible for somebody becoming pretty sick.
Our pastor is Father Jeff Lively, and when I first took in, I said, well, I'm going to spend some of your money, Father. And he said, what are you going to do? And I
That's
said,
a legitimate question.
there are some things over here that are out of date. And I said, I'm going to throw them away. And he said, oh, that's great. I don't want anything over there that's out of date. He said, I got sick once from
Oh, really?
a product that was old. And he said, I don't want any
Made
of
a
that
believer of him,
Yeah.
huh?
So he's
yes.
he's
Well,
a
you're
great
all
supporter.
lucky. I have to put a little plug in here for your pastor. He's a great gentleman. Serves your church, not only your church, but the community
Yes, he
very
does.
nobly. And by the way, the man's a veteran. I mean, he's when he retires, that may be coming up pretty quickly. He's going to retire about like a bird colonel or a captain. That's a big deal.
Well,
Yeah. So
we don't want him to retire.
no.
I know.
Well, during my lifetime, I've acquired a friend or two, and some of them are special. And like Mrs. Webster and Father Lively are 2 special to me, and I think that's really important to have special friends. So
Thank you, Bill.
a salute to Holy Family and their pastor, Father Jeff Lively. I think he may be a lieutenant colonel. I've forgotten it.
He is. He's
But
very,
he's up there high.
Yeah, I think it is a lieutenant colonel, maybe even a full colonel, but he's with an not the Air National Guard, the Army National Guard, I do believe. So
Well, it
we
would
have
be
to share
pretty-
him once in a while.
pretty well nigh impossible to carry on an endeavor like this if you didn't have the support
Oh,
of whoever the priest would be.
right.
And the parishioners seem to have to be behind it all too.
Right.
And you must find that throughout the county from church to church.
We do.
648-5510. We have 2 ladies who have given not only their time this morning, but they give a lot of time to your community at the Holy Family Food Pantry. Shirley Winterbauer of Burton View fame. Bow your head when you say Burton View, genuflect in that direction. And Mrs. Carolyn Webster, a dear friend from many years ago. Gosh, I hate to tell you about that, how long that might be. But in any event, these 2 ladies have given their time this morning, and we appreciate that. So if you have any questions and or comments, be nice to them, because I'll get you. 648-5510 for Carolyn Webster or Shirley Winterbauer. Questions about Holy Family's Food Pantry, a very, very important part of our community.
What have some of your numbers been lately?
Well, lately I'd say we're averaging anywhere between 25 and 30 families a week, and we're giving out anywhere from 40 to 50 bags a week. That's nothing compared to last year, right in the heat of everything. One day we gave out 280 bags of groceries in
my.
4 hours. So it was wild that day.
You were stepping high that day. Good grief.
Yep, we sure were.
Here, he's
He's a colonel.
Oh.
Well, we got that straightened out.
He's going to retire. He's going to retire general, sure enough. Yeah, bird colonel. We used to call them chicken colonels for some reason.
Well, you mentioned the other main food pantry in Lincoln. There are only 2 of us who operate on a schedule. We're there every week. The rest, there's several of them that have food pantries, but they don't operate on a routine schedule. So there's Lincoln Logan, which it's my understanding they're supported by 7 different churches in the county. Then Jefferson Street Christian Church has one. Community Action has one. The Park Meadows Baptist Church has one every once in a while. The Oasis, those are all periodic, aren't they, Shirley? Yeah. So
And there's nothing to prevent a person from going
no.
to one and the next.
And I certainly understand it. As I told you, what goes in a bag, we think that we give out quality and we're fairly generous, but that sure can't support people for a whole month.
No.
I don't blame them. Go where you can get it.
Yeah, right.
So.
And thank God that there are that many people in this area
Right.
that are aware of the fact that not everybody is as lucky as we are.
Yeah.
Could you use more volunteers? And I want to emphasize something about that. If you offer yourself to be a volunteer in any organization, be a volunteer. Don't pick and choose your time. These organizations need extra help. Could you use some volunteers there at the pantry?
We can always use volunteers. Vacations get in the way, I have a doctor's appointment that day,
Yeah.
or whatever.
And some people just kind of burn out for one reason or another. Whether it's legitimate or not, they just don't show up.
Well, and I tell you, we always need men. People think of a food pantry as that's something that
Sure.
the woman does when they retire.
Well, they think of volunteering as being for the ladies.
Right. But we have quite a few. I'd say we probably have 15 to 20 men, wouldn't you say, Shirley? And they're a godsend because they can do the heavy lifting.
lift the heavy stuff, yeah.
Some of the stuff we bring back is very heavy. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
When you go up north or wherever you go to your big food pantries. Yeah. Is there one on the highway there on the south side of Wilmington? Why do I remember something about
There was one
Oh.
on the main parkway driving
Yes,
through Bloomington over on the left Midwest.
Yeah, okay,
And
that's what I'm thinking
That's
about.
the one that we use, but it's moved
yeah,
now.
now we go on around Bloomington and
It's really a
it's-
normal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in Normal.
Okay.
It's out by
But they bring
Cummings
in
and all that. I mean, it's like an industrial area. And they're a very big building. I mean, a humongous building. So everything is run by times with them, and they do 30-minute intervals. So if you're at 8:30, you want to be there at 10 minutes before 8:30
Yeah.
because you got to check in, and once they pull you in,
You're ready.
you start down the line, and you tell them what you want, and they've got somebody there pulling it off and putting it in your truck or trailer or whatever.
Now,
Well,
produce.
how much latitude does one of your customers get? I mean, can I say to you that we don't eat peas at our house, we just eat corn or whatever?
Well, we had people coming in shopping, doing their own picking the groceries off the
Really?
shelf, what they
Interesting.
wanted. But COVID stopped that.
Well,
Oh,
sure.
it did.
But we try to buy what I would call common
Yeah.
foods. The soups: tomato soup, chicken noodle, cream of mushroom, chicken and stars. The vegetables: green beans, corn, mixed vegetables, peas. We try to buy those things that we think people will like. Sometimes we're kind of boring, but
Well, but you can't, I mean, not everybody likes lima beans,
well, and that's why we went to the personal shopping thing. But we can't do that with the drive-through.
No.
We have to have the bags already prepared and just hand them out. So, in a way, we'd like to go back to where they shop, but by the same token, with the numbers that we have, we can't do that because people have to wait outside. We can't have more than 2 in the in the building at the same
Oh.
time. And it takes time. We'd have a line some weeks clear around the block, you know.
Sure.
So,
648-5510. If you have some questions, these folks and their fellow volunteers furnishing a real need in the community. You've raised a question that, in my mind, Mrs. Winterbauer. You get produce from the major places up around Bloomington and Morton. Are we equipped to hold produce for a little while? Do we have a refrigeration there?
we have 3 refrigerators and 3 big freezers, plus the freezers and the refrigerators. But you'd be surprised how we fill it up. And sometimes Shirley comes back and I'm pulling my hair out thinking, where are we going to put this?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's why I try to go like to Bloomington Normal when I kind of got thrown into going to Morton, and then I kind of got talking to other people about it, and that's when they were talking about Bloomington Normal. So I checked into that and did everything, you know, and I thought we'd give it a try, and it worked out good for us. Everybody kept saying, oh, it won't work, because it's on a Thursday. Well, fortunately, I was able to get in on a Tuesday. So basically, all the fresh produce that comes back on a Tuesday, Carolyn has to give out, you know, or has for Wednesday. So we're
Yeah.
only holding it overnight.
So you have really truly fresh produce.
Yes. I mean, I brought back whole pineapples and things that I wouldn't think people would take.
No. Yeah.
Oh, I bet they're happy to see those
And, yeah,
kinds of things.
squash
Cut my finger off trying to cut a pineapple open.
But they take them. I mean, there's people that know what to do with
Sure.
them. So I was fortunate enough to get in on a Tuesday, and then Carolyn has our food pantry on Wednesday, so we're only holding it overnight.
Shirley's been a godsend. She has just a good knack for knowing what people would like and what they wouldn't like.
She comes from Burtview. There's a reason.
Oh,
for
is that it? And she tries her darndest to make sure that we're getting nothing but fresh food, things that aren't out of date. Once in a while, when they bring them back, we find something that she couldn't see. They might have shown her a picture of it, but it doesn't show the date on it. So those things go out.
I don't think we can emphasize strongly enough, Mrs. Busby, the matter of giving to the food pantry, either Logan County or the Holy Family, or your own particular individual church. If you've got a little extra money, don't know what to do with it, give it to your church pastor. Tell him you want it to go at the food bank. He'll take care of that for you.
That's right.
Unless it's a couple that I know would go at the bar.
For sure.
How many volunteers do you have to have come Wednesday morning when you open up your
Well,
doors?
we have 6 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon, so that's 10 a day. And as I said, we usually have 1 or 2 people that are continuously bagging, bringing up new bags, because we don't have room to store them that way. Then we have 1 person putting things in the car, another person getting the meats out, and another person doing the extras, and then the computer operator.
Well, you have quite a little army.
We do, but everybody works together. We're really
great.
blessed that way.
They all have their job, and they all work together. And last year they come up with I don't know if anybody's familiar with the USDA boxes.
Yes, I've heard about
And,
those. Let's talk a little bit about that.
When it first started, I was under the assumption that it was just going to be 1 box. Well, then there was a couple times we'd come back with what, Carolyn? 3 or 4 different boxes of stuff from USDA. And maybe you would have 1 box that had breakfast sandwiches in it. 1 box might have all milk in it. Now this year they have them again, but they're smaller, and it's got like milk, and it's yogurt, potatoes, onions, maybe oranges, apples, meatballs, hot dogs. But there again, you got to have a refrigerated spot that you can hold those.
Yes.
And that takes an extra person, and there again, that's where our guys come in, because some of those are very heavy. And
You may have heard just this past week, Full Gospel Church on
Yes.
McLean Street. They had 2 truckloads come in, and they don't have any advance notice, I don't think. But at any rate, when it comes in, then they're on Facebook and other social media saying, "Come get these."
I know where you get
And
some
that's USDA produce
Yes.
that they receive?
This
yeah,
all
it's through
goes
the government.
This all goes back to when Trump made the deal with the farmers and gave them, I don't know the details of the program, but it worked with the farmers for income to them, and in return they give this. It's quality stuff in it. I mean,
Oh,
name
yeah,
brand
some of it is
butter
very,
or milk.
Yeah, there for a while there was butter and different types of cheeses and
Produce.
Oh,
Do you find that your people that come to you on the Wednesday gatherings are grateful to you
Oh yes.
for this
Oh, I'm
service?
sure they
Oh
are.
yes.
Yeah.
And we try to be very matter of fact about it, so we don't want people to think that.
To feel embarrassed?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
No, that's
so
not-
we try to be lighthearted about it. And,
Well, you just assume that if they show up that the need is there.
that's right.
So that's the
We
obvious
don't ask
attitude.
any questions
Sure.
other than where do you live.
So just had an idea for some volunteers for you.
Okay.
One Father Guy will hear somebody at the confessional booth instead of some Our Fathers or whatever else. He can assign you 10 hours as a volunteer at your food pantry.
There you go.
One day last year when we were giving out the USDA boxes, and they came out of the woodwork for those. But we had them lined up in cars, literally all the way around the block.
Really?
And
Yeah.
Father Lively and Wendell Lowry, who is our business manager, they came over, and they were
And
helping
pitched
us.
in,
Helping out,
huh?
sure,
Bless
yeah.
their hearts.
It takes all the people we can get on one day.
because at that time they were still coming around. You were still getting your bags of groceries and the extras. And then you drove a little further and you got the USDA boxes.
Well, what
Took a lot.
What do you do to inform the people if it's not at your regular food bank hours on the Wednesdays?
Well, it is all on the regular food bank hours, but as we'll have people that will call and say, "I'd like to drop off some things," then I just try to meet them and take it in that way. But we've had good help from out in the community as well as from our parishes, and we couldn't do it if we didn't have all that help. So.
Well, thank God people do rise to the occasion, don't
Yep,
they?
Yep. And, I said like the men that help. It's just a godsend because something's on the top shelf. Well, I keep shrinking and I can't reach that top shelf,
Yeah, I know
So-
because somebody can't lift above their shoulders.
That's right. Yeah, I know somebody
And that's
too.
just it. And some of those are very heavy boxes
Sure.
Yeah.
that are put up there. So I know I've put some up there with a ladder, so I know that these ladies can't get them down. Because it was
Ladies,
everything
is there
I
one?
had.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Mrs. Winterbauer. I stepped right in the middle of your line.
And then on top of that, some of the stuff that we bring back is what they call bulk. So when you open up a box and it's bulk, then we have to, we bag it. We bag so
Yeah.
many in a bag and stuff. So that takes time on top of that to rebag some of this bulk stuff
Oh, sure.
into individual bags for people.
Well, you can't do that on Wednesday when the people are coming.
No. We try to do that on Tuesdays when we bring the groceries back, or Thursdays when we bring them back. If anything needs bagged, we try to do it right then and there. So
Yeah.
that Carolyn's got that all done, and she can just grab a box and stuff.
I might just throw out here too that there are some hidden things that we need volunteers for. As an example, the cardboard. The boxes that come in, we've got all that cardboard to get rid of. And IGA has just been great to us. They allow us to take it down there and bale it and pick it up. So
Those folks down there at that particular store do a lot of quiet good in the community.
yes, they
Yes,
do.
they do.
Yes, they do.
And have done historically.
Yep. So we're grateful for all those little things.
Yes, it's not on the radar at all.
That's
But
right.
it's something that's important.
Yep. has to be done.
Yeah.
You get to the point, we have a small area, particularly in the back room, and if there's a lot of cardboard around, you're kind of doing this, trying to get around it,
Sure.
you know. So it's helpful.
If there's one thing, excuse me, you start to say something and I'll do that again to
No,
you.
I was thinking.
I saw your mouth moving, so I knew you were doing something.
You two have been working together a long time, haven't you?
Well, and we were all neighbors for 50 years before that, weren't we?
Yes, we were.
I'm passing the baton.
How many people does it actually take?
Well, as I said, we have over 50 volunteers, and we can always use more. Simply
Sure.
Because not everybody can work, but we're very busy. Usually from 9:30 they line up until about 11 o'clock. Then things will taper off. So, but you have to be there just in case they come.
But then you have these extra jobs, like driving to
Exactly.
Bloomington, for instance, and all those kinds of things. I'm sure there's a need for volunteers right along.
Oh, anytime. And all they have to do is call the parish office, or they can call me. So we'd be glad to have them. So.
And we'd serve an extra six-pack sometime.
You do mean V8.
On a serious note, we appreciate very much Shirley Winterbauer and Carolyn Webster for being with us today. They represent the heart and soul of what's going on there at the Holy Family Food Pantry, which is a very, very needed organization we have here, taking care of people who are in need. And the folks that help those organizations are also in need of extra help. And if we could close on one note, it would be call the Holy Family Food Pantry and volunteer your services, and or give them a couple extra bucks. That'd be fine too. Thank you, Carolyn and Shirley, very much. This is all we have for Viewpoint today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.